Hi, Aunt Chrissy. This is Danielle here with your past life natal chart reading. I have not been on Zoom in the longest time to record myself. I'm a little rusty and don't feel like getting dressed for the day. So I'll switch over to your astrology chart soon. But I just wanted you to see my cool northern lights in the background. So I'm very inspired by that. Um, yeah, I'm going to pull up your chart and hopefully try to share this with you because it can be a little bit confusing. Um, yeah, so I want to start by saying a lot of the stuff that comes up for healing in a past life chart reading is karmic in nature and that it's not always pleasant. So expect it to be a little depressing and more from the angle of things that need to be healed. It can also reveal a lot about your gifts and talents that you brought with you and things that you can continue to work on or improve upon in this life. But I guess I shouldn't say depressing. It can sound depressing because a lot of the karma that shows up still needs to be healed, but we can use that to our benefit and make it so that we can get the most out of life this time around and not have to carry this baggage with us as we move forward. So it's important to note that. But I've given past life readings to people before and they're like, oh man, that was so depressing. So you really have to approach it with the right mindset. For this reading, I always start with a shamanic journey. So I don't know if you know this, but I took a 3-year shamanic training apprenticeship program, and it's really a cool modality. I know it's used in a lot of indigenous cultures, Native American cultures, etc. But the guy I took it from it has a really modern approach and can put this all into modern language so it doesn't seem so weird. But basically, for each reading that I do, I always do a shamanic journey, which is a meditation, and I meet with my spirit team to get any information intuitively before I look at the chart, and sometimes even after I've looked at the chart, just to further clarify some things that I'm seeing. Because when you do a natal chart reading, so many different meanings can be derived from one placement. Like your moon can represent your mother, your moon can represent your home, it can represent you as a mom, it can represent your emotions or your femininity. So it's really important to see what each aspect means for you. So I did a shamanic journey and I did tap into 2 different lifetimes. I'm not going to tell you about those yet. First, I want to get into the chart reading so you can see just like the science of it. I can call this a science. The ancient people did call it a science, and now it's like modern science that has just labeled it new age, witchy, weird stuff. But it was really used back in the day. Politicians still use it, but it's kind of held secretively because of the stigma around it. So yeah, I also tapped into your chakras, and your chakras actually looked pretty good, except for the root chakra. I don't know if you know much about the chakras, but the root chakra is at the base of the spine, and a lot of past life stuff can be stored there and affects your ability to heal in this life if the past life stuff is not healed. So I was seeing that your root chakra was actually reversed, and the root chakra is really all about survival. So if you're living a life of comfort and you're not like really struggling to make ends meet, but you're still with a reverse root chakra, this could be coming in because of the past life trauma due to this fight for survival, which will come up in your chart. So not only when we're looking at the natal chart, now moving into the natal chart, when we're looking at the natal chart, there are really many, many different parts that you can look at. So I included a lot of those, but not all of them. So the first place that we look at in a natal chart is the 12th house. And I am going to get my little pen here and circle the 12th house for you. Your 12th house is ruled by Gemini. So I know that the ruler is Gemini because obviously you can see right here on the end is this glyph for Gemini. However, interestingly enough, I'm going to pause for a sec. When you're looking at astrology, there are different house systems. So here in the whole sign house system, the 12th house is ruled by Gemini, but it takes up the entire house. However, when you are looking at the Placidus house system, you will notice that you have Gemini over here, but the 12th house, you have the 12th house, but Gemini is kind of in the middle. So you have Taurus actually ruling your 12th house and Gemini in the middle, and then you move into Cancer, finishing the house. And this is actually a karmic indication. So Gemini here is being intercepted. It means that it actually rules no house. You can see rulership is determined by the start of the house, which planet is meeting the exact start of that house, and Gemini's in the middle. So if you look across at Sagittarius, that means that house is also intercepted, but there's also houses that make up for this interception that bring in more energy. So being that the 12th house Gemini is intercepted, and so is the 6th house of Sagittarius, this is representing past life karma. So interceptions are useful for exploring the subconscious conditioning and emotional undercurrents in a person's life, particularly the subtle or unspoken influences in early childhood and subtle yet potent family dynamics. Sorry, I'm reading this from the notes that I took for you. They point to qualities, needs, and potentials that were present but undernourished in the formative environment, often overshadowed by the traits of duplicated cusp signs. So over time, these hidden rooms of the chart become areas where you need to tap into growth, mastery, and they reveal how early suppression of these energies can later produce even extraordinary strengths once you tap into healing. So you have Sagittarius and Gemini intercepted and underdeveloped, but you have Cancer and Capricorn overdeveloped. So this is where you're making up for it in this Cancer, this nurturing kind of nature, which would be represented by Cancer, and Capricorn, which is more of the work ethic. Capricorns are known for taking on a burden, carrying, like bearing a cross, or working really, really hard. So in childhood, the duplicated signs describe what was rewarded and expected. That's what this would be, the Capricorn energy and the Cancer energy. So you might have been rewarded for working hard, and you were expected to work hard, or you were expected to like be nurturing and more like motherly, or just really, really loyal to your family. And that's kind of some skill. Those are some skills that you really overdeveloped. And then the undernourished skills were the Gemini and the Sagittarius. So Sagittarius would be maybe that you felt, or I'm sorry, Gemini is all about communication. So you might have felt that your voice was silenced or scattered, or you couldn't really communicate effectively because you were kind of shut down. So for whatever reason, communication wasn't really safe or valued in this lifetime. So right now we're still talking about this lifetime, but it actually ties in energy from past lives that could have continued into this lifetime, especially in early childhood. But beneath this lies a curious, brilliant mind wanting to explore and share ideas freely, but you just felt like you really couldn't. But once your voice is reclaimed in adulthood, you could become someone who it becomes like a very powerful communicator or storyteller or even a teacher. And with the Sagittarius energy being intercepted in the 9th house, this means that you had this quest for truth and understanding of how the universe worked, but it was blocked or confusing to you at first. So this could have been based on your education, your religion, the way you're brought up in the Catholic faith, and that really didn't resonate with you, but you weren't really sure what exactly did resonate with you. And you begin to question over time what is true for you. And this is how you become probably how you are today with being into astrology and some of the things that you didn't really grow up being taught. So it's really important to see how these houses were coming in from a past life, and this will make sense if you think about what comes up in the chart. So I'm just kind of show you how you can see many aspects of past life karma coming in many different areas of the chart. Okay, so also the 4th house, and I'm going to zoom in on whole signs now. I wanted you to see Placidus because it's cool to see the intercepted chart, but now we're just going to focus in on the 4th house. So the 4th house is here in your chart. This chart, the 4th house, is actually ruled by Virgo, and this means you were raised with traditional ways, views, or structures, and often you had to sacrifice your own needs for the needs of others, or basically this is like the Mother Teresa kind of vibe where you're someone who is like doing everything for everyone else and not necessarily taking care of yourself, and you're really praised for that. So this was more of an upbringing that was practical and not so much spiritual. And this could also be coming in from past lives, because the fourth house is about your roots, and your family in this life, but also stemming from past lives. This makes sense for some of the lifetimes that we're going to be talking about that I tapped into psychically when I did the shamanic journey. And then you have the moon. The moon is also something in past life astrology that is indicative of past lives. So the moon is in the ninth house of Aquarius, and Aquarius is the sign of the outcast, the rebel, the black sheep. And you might have already felt that way in general in this lifetime emotionally, being that you have the moon in Aquarius, but it's also in the ninth house of religion, spirituality, and travel. So you're going to see, again, even more so being an outcast for your belief system is a theme coming from past life stuff for you. And again, some of the lives that I'm going to tap into in a little bit, it's going to make more sense. So we also have something called the South Node. The South Node is, if you can see on the screen, it's down here for you. I'm sorry, up here for you in Aquarius, right next to the moon. And it is in the ninth house of Aquarius. So we're bringing in even more of that Aquarius energy. And the South Node primarily represents unresolved wounds, tragedies, limitations, and failures from the past, which potentially interfere with our ability to fulfill our soul contract in this lifetime. So it's a crutch. It's something that you overdeveloped in a past life that comes with you into this life to kind of move away from. Like, take the best of it, leave the rest of it, and don't rely on it too much. So in a past life, you might relied on that Aquarius energy, which I said is the black sheep, the outcast, the loner. It could also be the one who's emotionally detached for you. I think it was because you had to be, like, there was so much traumatic events that you lived through, and you had to work so hard just to survive that you could not pay attention to your emotions. You really had to just be like, suck it up. This is what I got to deal with just to live. So that was the energy I was picking up on for you with the ninth house stuff and the Aquarius moon, because the Aquarius moon really tries to detach emotionally, but for you it might be a little bit hard because you have your Chiron placement, which we'll get to at the end. So a little bit there about the South Node in general and how you can use it in the chart. And again, when we're talking about past life stuff and we're talking about the South Node, we're talking about stuff that karmically you want to get rid of. It's not really like the best part of your chart, and it's always seen kind of in a negative life because, again, it represents the karma that you're bringing in that needs to be healed and you want to move away from. So again, it's Aquarius, it's the rebel, the badass, the black sheep, the independent thinker, and someone who really spoke their mind and didn't really care about what other people thought, but it got you in trouble and you were alienated or probably could have been killed. A lot of people who have this South Node in Aquarius, I have it too, were killed in a past life or imprisoned for their belief system. And you in the ninth house, here in Placidus, but in whole signs, was the eighth house, which I'm going to explain both. The eighth house, if we talk about whole signs, this is the house of death and loss when it comes to past lives, and it was a rough one. Not only does this speak of your death, but also the death of loved ones or those around you. This house brings an amazing sense of humor, though. The kind where you kind of laugh where others would have cried because you've already had it so hard and you just see the humor in it. I can see you actually being that way. Just being like, oh, God, that was so shitty. I'm going to make a joke out of it. And then the ninth house, where the South Node is. This is the house of travel, leaving home, foreign land, especially for freedom. Like you might have been someone who left home for a religious belief, to get flee religious persecution, or just someone who wanted to expand and see new lands. So you can see how this is all going to tie in later when we get to the specific lives that I saw you in. And then planets conjunct or next to the South Node further represents the nature of who you were. So the moon is right next to the South Node up here. And the moon could mean that you were trapped by caring for family, or you were trapped by a family belief system that didn't really fit you. Also could mean that abuse was coming from the within the family. And again, we're seeing the moon as representing like family, home, maternal instincts, and how is that seen in a negative light, because the south node is something that you're karmically trying to move away from. And again, it was too much family, too much having to stick to their belief systems, family abusing you, or basically just having to care too much for a loved one. Sometimes it shows up as people who like had an abused, or I'm sorry, had a child with a disability or a spouse with a disability, and they had to take care of them and spend all their time just doing that, and that was their life. Then we look at the planetary ruler of the south node. So your south node again is in Aquarius. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, and then we see Saturn over here in the seventh house, but it's also in the eighth house. We already went over the eighth house though, so I'm not going to even get into that. You already know what that means. We talked about that's the house of death and loss, and we don't want to go into that anymore. You've had enough of that. So the seventh house will bring in a new aspect though to this past life story. There was something to do with relationships, because that is the house of relationships, and this could be, again, having to succumb to the desires of a spouse, or having a difficult marriage, again, having to take care of a spouse, something like that. And it was in Capricorn, so the Saturn is in Capricorn. Saturn likes being in Capricorn. That's its home. It does best there. So it's not exactly a bad thing. It means like you're almost comfortable with hard work and you value that. And in this world, you get a lot of respect and praise for being a hard worker. So there's definitely not a bad thing. But when we're talking about the negative light that of the past life karma, it could mean hard work that had to be done alone. There's a deep mark left on the soul from having to do things in solitude, and you did not really have emotional support. Capricorn isn't really that warm, lovey-dovey, like Cancer, motherly type of energy. Capricorn's like, suck it up, go to work, do your job, stop being a baby. So you did not have that emotional support system, and this is the mark of a pioneer paving a new way for others in an unforgiving land, which I want you to pay attention to that last sentence. A pioneer paving a new way for others in an unforgiving land. And others, but now others can rely on you in this lifetime because you are a magnet for duty and responsibility. And you just need now to like give yourself permission to let loose and have fun. So we also look at planets opposing the south node. So a planet that's opposite the south node, which you do have, is representing something or someone who blocked you, repressed you, defeated, or traumatized you in the past. It either represents something insurmountable or irresolvable, something unattainable. It symbolizes the brick wall of reality. So we can see here again how this planetary opposition is not really doing anything for you anymore, and it's time to move on from this. And you have Black Moon Lilith. So here we have our south node up here. And then across from it, we have Black Moon Lilith. It looks like a little black moon with a cross, and it is in the sign of, Leo, in the third house here in Placidus. So Black Moon Lilith is the wounded feminine, and I'm going to send you this entire reading, that what I typed up, with a little link for you to be able to tap into that. And I'll get more into Lilith at the end, but being that it's across from your south node and conjunct your north node, it's really important to pay attention to it. So this is the feminine wound, the wounded feminine, how female energy over history has been demonized, repressed. I mean, if you want to start with the Bible and Adam in the Garden of Eden, tempted by Eve, and that whole story, and basically just how everything over the years, feminine, you could even look at it as being your intuition, your psychic abilities, how the church has told us that we need to go to church to be redeemed of our sins. We need to go talk to a male priest to go to heaven, like stuff like that. I mean, we're talking about one of the biggest things that drives me crazy about religion is that that's what it teaches you. Like, in order to go to heaven, you need to come to church, confess your sins, and then you're good. Like, you can go sit in a church and then that's the only way that you can really, forgive yourself. But you can do all this work on your own, independently, tapping into your own intuition. You don't need to go to a priest to be connected to God or spirit. And people are afraid of being intuitive or, using tarot cards, or people think I'm weird because I use a pendulum. I mean, I can't even begin to share some of the judgment that you get just for connecting to spirit on your own, which I think is the wounded feminine, and that is showing up in your chart. So I think it's important for you. And it's also next to Uranus. So Uranus here has a little circle at the bottom and these two little like curves on the side. This means something sudden and tragic happened to you in a past life, and that is still karmically with you. The North Node, which is always right across from the South Node, is down here, third house Leo for you, right where I have it. And in the whole sign house system, and I'm not going to go pull that back up again because, to be honest, I'm the worst with screen sharing and actually being able to pull both of these up when I'm on a Zoom call. So your North Node is where you're going karmically. So it's opposite the South Node. It's always the opposite sign in astrology. So Leo and Aquarius are polar opposites on this chart, and they really work with each other, and they're kind of opposite each other. So the North Node resolves the problem of the South Node and represents new and unexplored territory for the person. It represents the person's evolutionary intention and soul contracts. But due to inexperience with this sign and the energy of the sign, the person also often feels awkward or uncomfortable in these areas of life and will avoid it. So I also have Leo North Node, and I'm supposed to tap more into being on camera, being in the spotlight, allowing myself to be creative and expressive and say how I feel, but I hate it. I don't want to post on Instagram. I don't want to get out there and share and be expressive. I almost have this fear of like people will judge me because in a past life with my Aquarius South Node, I was probably killed for my beliefs and speaking my mind and my weird thought system. So you have something similar where you should be speaking your mind. You should be out there saying, look at me, look what I can do in some way, like being that Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun. The sun is the center of the galaxy, and we should be like more shining our light, not being embarrassed and afraid to speak and be seen and be heard. So that is something that's important for you with this Leo North Node energy. And it's because it's the North Node, it's karmic or your soul contract. It's where you're supposed to be going. It's what your soul wants to learn how to do in this lifetime to really embody that energy, but it is going to be hard because you might fall back on that Aquarius, like, nope, I'm going to take the backstage. I don't need to get attention. I'm going to speak my mind and be who I am, like back behind the scenes, but I don't need the spotlight. I don't need anybody's approval, that kind of thing. But so in this lifetime, it's different. Like you're not going to be judged or killed for your beliefs. This time you're not the outcast. So people might actually listen to what you believe or what you have to say as long as you believe in yourself and get over this past life karma where you were punished for being different. So there could be a tendency to judge because of past life spent being judged. That's like, you might find yourself being a little bit judgmental about certain people or things or situations you don't love because you are always judged. So now's the time to move into a life where you can convince those around you. You're actually convincing the ones around you who in the past life burned you at the stake. That's the saying here that I wrote down because yeah, like if you were burned at the stake before, now the people that burnt you will be believing you. Kind of a different spin on things, and this will be relevant, especially for your reading it later. So anyway, it's in the second house in one house system, and that could mean in this lifetime you are to create a sense of safety because the second house is the home, security, money. You're moving into that. You're moving into just knowing that you are supported and safe in this universe. Even if you've had struggles in early life to make ends meet, you just even if you don't make enough money, it's like that sense of I have what I need, I don't need anything else mindset. And also the third house and the other house system. It's funny, I'm blending all this together because I think each house system speaks a little bit differently to some of the stuff that I found when I did your shamanic journey. So again, just to reiterate your beliefs with the third house, the house of communication, your beliefs and the way you communicated in the past got you in trouble. But now it's time to question everyone and every single thing, even yourself. There's no need to hold on to one belief system. So you might have been a little bit dogmatic yourself in your old belief systems and the way that you went around, like, you could even think of it today with politics. Like maybe you're so set on one side that you think the other side is wrong. It's not about ever holding on to your way being right. It's about seeing both sides and understanding both sides. And that would be something that would be karmically beneficial for you to move into and understand. And I think everyone's working on that because we're all taught to grow up in like a very polarized world where it's either right or wrong, black or white. Really, you can hang out in the middle. You can sit there and say, I can see both sides, and I'm okay with that, and I don't have to be one way or the other. Um, so the planets conjunct or next to the North Node. The person is trying to integrate higher aspects of these planets. So before, when these planets were across from the South Node, it was karmically bad. But now you're taking the higher aspects of the planets next to the North Node, like we have Lilith, Black Moon Lilith, and Uranus. You're supposed to, with Lilith, heal the wounded feminine. Okay, so I think you're starting to do that with the spiritual work that you do. And also Uranus conjunct the North Node. You're meant to be different and an outside of the box thinker, and in this lifetime you're supported for that. It's okay to be different. And then the ruler of the North Node is the Sun in Libra. So the North Node is the North Node is Leo, which is ruled by the Sun, and the Sun is in Libra. So I think what Libra is trying to tell us is you are supposed to become someone who is able to enjoy the more parts of life that come from being part of a civilized culture. Whereas in the past, you were fighting for survival, and you really didn't have time to like go appreciate art and music and focus on beauty or making your home look aesthetically pleasing. Now it's time to do those things. Like, you don't need to struggle to survive anymore. You can really enjoy the finer pleasures and things in life that, not everybody gets to. So if you're living in a third world country and didn't have a job and didn't have any money, you would just be on the street trying to survive. You wouldn't be wasting your time going to an art museum and things like that. So it's now about allowing yourself the comfort to just feel like you can do those things, and life is not all about survival. And this could just show up like the way you feel like you always have to go to work every day, and it's such a chore. Change your mindset about that. Yeah, and then also the Sun is in the fourth house or the fifth house, depending on which house system you are using. The fourth house is your lifetime to create a safe home, a comfortable place to live, and really dive deeply into your healing. That's why I also wanted to add a little meditation for you. I like to create meditations based on the astrology chart, because I think delivering an astrology chart without any healing part to it is kind of pointless. It's cool to like know about this stuff, but then it's like, what do you do with it? So you can definitely just do a short meditation to heal some of the things that are showing up. And then the fifth house, if you're looking at the other house system, would be important here too. And this really talks about connecting to your inner child and doing what brings you joy in life. You no longer need to fight to survive, so just do what makes you happy. And then another thing we can look at in terms of past life karma is Saturn. So we talked about Saturn already in Capricorn, but Saturn can also show where you were born with a blockage, and you're invited to admit that fact and to work on it with realism, discipline, and honesty. If you don't, then your life will be defined by your blockages. And if you do, if you look at it and say, okay, everybody's born with a blockage, let me use this for healing, then you make progress. So Saturn is in Capricorn. And again, this just keeps reiterating the same thing we were talking about before with the work ethic. Like, you took on too many responsibilities in your past, and you are a really hard worker. This comes naturally to you, but it's time to like let go a little bit of that need to always be working so hard. And again, Saturn is in the 7th or 8th house, and the 7th can bring challenges in relationships in a past life. But it's next to Jupiter. So we have Saturn right here, Jupiter right here. Jupiter could mean luck in relationships. So I can get, maybe perhaps in this lifetime, you in the past you had challenging times in relationships, maybe before you got married or even in early marriage, but it always ends up being for your benefit. Like, every breakup you had, you could look back and say, okay, I was upset during that, but it's really much better. You could learn from the mistakes and have a positive mindset anyway, even in little arguments in your current relationship. But Saturn in the 8th house, when we switch between the two house systems, it can bring troubles around codependency or loss. It could do that in a current life, but also what we're talking about here is a past life. So in a past life, there could have been a spouse who died, which we will get to, or also just taking on your spouse's debt, or somehow like Yeah, eighth house is the house of death and debt. So for some reason you were taking on a debt in a relationship and perhaps death of a spouse. And again, this will really make sense in a little bit when I start talking to you about these past lives that I saw, which is so crazy because it's pretty clear for me who you were and what happens, and that doesn't always happen when I do these readings. Then we talk about Chiron. So Chiron is the wounded healer, and you have Chiron in the ninth house Pisces up here at the top right of the chart. It looks like that little K with a circle below it. And you know, the wounded healer will never totally be healed, but it's healed enough. It's a wound that's healed enough that you can help others heal through this wound. You become the teacher or the healer through this house placement. So for me, like my Chiron's in the fifth house, which is the house of like creativity, which you know, I've always been an artist, but I struggle with actually sitting down to paint and letting myself just like express myself through my art. So it's interesting how I think like I ended up being an art teacher because I'm helping others create art, but I have a hard time doing it myself, and it's something I love. Long story short, that's what I wanted to share, so you can kind of get an idea of what I mean by that. But your Chiron is in Pisces, and this could be a deep fear that the universe was not there for you in the past in this life, which also comes from a past life because Chiron is often karmic. So there was a lack of connection to the oneness of all that is. Because of this, there's a deep sense of not being supported by the universe or God or what have you, whatever you want to call it. And this may show up in this life as feeling like you are dealt an unfair hand in life. Like you might just constantly think like, dang, like why did I have this? Why did this happen to me? Why am I not supported? Why am I not loved? So you also may get stuck or bogged down in the pain of the world and the pain of others. Like, not only is this about why you don't have certain things or why the universe didn't support you, it might be like something happening on the news, like why is this happening to this girl, or why is this happening to these people in this culture, and you just take it so personally. And I think it's important for you to detach from that a little bit and realize that might not be your stress to take on or your pain to take on. But it's easier said than done, and that's always a little bit going to be with you. But the ninth house, also Chiron in the ninth house, reaffirms the feeling of being a failure or not living up to something. So I think this could have also connected to your past life. And when I get to what these two past lives were that I saw, you'll see what I mean by that. So the ninth house is about travel, religion, spirituality, and all things that are meant to broaden your mindset. Sometimes it's about it's higher education, college, again, meant to broaden your mindset. But here, Chiron is inflicted. So for whatever reason, you felt like you were had your eyes set on something, or went somewhere, did something, and it didn't meet your expectations. You felt a little disappointed. Back to Lilith. So again, we're going to talk again about Black Moon Lilith down here, and you can reference the Word document I send you in the email to get an awesome interpretation of exactly what Black Moon Lilith is, because it's not a planet, it's a point. But your Black Moon Lilith is in Leo, and it's either in the second or third house, depending on which house system you're using. But Leo is a desire to be admired for something, but you feel ashamed of that. Like you feel ashamed for your need to be recognized or desired. So you shy away from being noticed, when in reality, with that like Leo North Node, you're meant to be noticed. Like you can stand out for something, whether it's just like at a family party and you talking and being true to who you are, or even something bigger, like, you know, making a YouTube video and posting on social media. I don't know exactly what that goal is for you, but when we're looking at Black Moon Lilith in terms of where its house placement is, in the second house, you have a fear of failing, or fear of being left behind, a fear of losing it all. There's like a little bit of a lack of security in some sense, and this could again be from your past life stuff we're going to learn about. And the third house is a fear of communication due to being judged. We talked about this already, and this comes through so many times for you. Just the fear of speaking your minds because you're afraid that you might be killed. Or in this life, it shows up just being judged because you're probably not going to be killed for speaking your mind nowadays, but you were before. And then the last really thing I wanted to talk about are again, when these nodes, the south node and the north node, this is where they were in your birth chart when you were born, but they still circulate the sky. They actually go backwards around the chart. And when the transiting currents nodes repass over where they were in your birth chart when you were born, this could mean just some little like places where you can continue healing. So 65, I think you're going to be turning 65, or did you just turn 65? Anyway, around age 65, you have an inverse nodal return. This means the transiting north node passes over your natal south node, and the transiting south node passes over your natal north node. So if you have any questions about like what this means, then you can ask me, but it doesn't happen like the day you turn 65. Oh, now I got to pay attention to where my north node is. No, it's just like you're kind of getting a sense over the next year, or maybe you've already been feeling it. You're being able to get some closure on past life issues just because the current nodes are going reversely over your natal nodes. That means where they were in the sky when you were born. So this is just a good time to do healing. It's not going to be anything shocking or crazy happening to you like some of the other transits could be, but it might be like even why you're drawn to get this reading right now and you're finally getting it, because this is the time to work on the healing. Pretty cool, I think. Okay, so this is where I'm going to share the two lives that I saw for you. And I had a kind of a hard time determining which was which life because they were both in America. You were a woman in both lives, and they were kind of like close together. It's not like one was like the year 800 and the other one was the year 1800. So the first life I saw you in, you were a pioneer. I saw you as a woman wearing a bonnet. You were headed out west during the westward expansion. It was during like the 1860s-ish, so it was kind of the end of the Oregon Trail. And this life was a struggle. It was a life of labor. It was cold. It was hard on the Oregon Trail, and you worked all the time to help your family. If you ever watched Yellowstone, and I loved watching Yellowstone, but the two prequels, I forget the exact years, but one of them was the late 1800s when the family moved out to on the Oregon Trail to expand out west to Montana, and I just thought of you the whole time. If you didn't watch it, you should. But what I got is, during this life, you got pregnant at 16, and then you kind of married around 17 because you were pregnant, and then you made this trip westward, and then you got pregnant again with twins, but you lost both of them on the trip. And then you had one more child once you landed. I think it was Oregon where you went, but I would just double check with that. But you did love your husband in this life. You had a good relationship with your husband. And I just want to look back over to some of the things that came up. So I said the fourth house was ruled by Virgo. I'm looking back at my notes here. And this says you were raised in traditional ways, views are structured, or a focus on service at the sacrifice of all self needs. So this makes sense for the pioneer life because you basically just had to fight to live. You were making it out there across the Oregon Trail where people were known to die, and it was cold. Like where you headed was freezing. It's like you were just fighting for survival. You were not worried about the niceties of life. Again, looking at the eighth house, the westward expansion. When you have the, oh sorry, not the eighth house. I'm talking about the ninth house. The ninth house is the house of travel, leaving home for a foreign land. So in a past life, I said before, nothing could stop you. You were going to head out. You were going to go west, even if it was not a smart idea or didn't practically make sense. You had this vision, this dream, but then something about it was like you got there and it didn't live up to, it's up to what you wanted it to be. Like when you watch Yellowstone, the people are out there and they're like, why are we even here? Why are we on this land? Like, it's so cold, kind of. You had this vision, you had this idea, you go do that ninth house thing, the travel, the dream, the higher way of living because you think something's better somewhere else, and then you realize you get there, it might not have been. Again, we talked about the moon conjunct your south node, and I said you were trapped by caring for family or a family belief system. It seems like you had kids on the Oregon Trail. Imagine being on the Oregon Trail, let alone having kids, having children die, being pregnant. I mean, that to me seems like you were trapped by that moon representing the womb, the mother, the female. You were trapped by that female energy that you had to embody during that lifetime. Yeah, so then I'm trying to see if anything else relates back to, I think that pretty much covers that life. So now I'm going to tell you about the other life I saw. I saw you as a pilgrim coming over from England in the 1600s. And you weren't on the Mayflower, but you were on one of the ships to come after, which is pretty cool because I know in my family, I have family on both sides. It was pop-up side, my pop-up side, and my mom's side. Both had ancestors coming over. Some were on the Mayflower and some were on the ship shortly after, but you could have been related to them in this past life. But I saw you as a pilgrim coming to America. But this is crazy because it's rare that I kept tapping into Salem during the witch trials, and I know it was shortly after some of the pilgrims came, some of them settled in Salem, and I got this vibe that you were one of the women who was imprisoned during the trials. I don't think you were hung or pressed to death. When I went to Salem, they said most of the witches actually weren't hung, they were pressed. So they were laid out on these slabs, and then they piled more and more and more weight and stones on top of them until they died. And they actually were pressing men too, because if the men didn't turn their wives in and admit that they were witches, they were killed. So I got that you were one of the so-called witches during the witch trials, but the witches actually weren't witches. I never knew that until I went to Salem. They were just women who, some of them were mentally ill, but some of them had a bad reputation because they spoke their mind and they had different belief systems than the time. So I got that you were shamed for speaking out against the Puritan views. So at the time in Salem, most of the religion was a Puritan faith, and you complained about that. You didn't like it, so you were deemed a witch. But I think it was pretty cool to check out Sarah Good's story. Sarah Good's one of the famous witches who was killed in Salem during the witch trials. And it's really interesting. I never will go back on a past life reading and say this was you in a past life, this famous person. But sometimes it makes sense for me when I look at the chart and see how many connections. So if you happen to read this story about Sarah Good and say, wow, like that could have been me, and it really resonates with you, then take it. Otherwise, leave it. But when I read about her, because I was really drawn to her after I had these visions about you during the shamanic journey, I read that her husband did not support her, and she actually had a first husband who died. He had so much debt that she had taken on all of his debt when he died, and then she got married and to a new husband who wouldn't support her, and when she was accused of being a witch, he just turned her in. Like, he agreed with everybody, and she was sent to prison, and she died in prison, I believe. So when I go back and I think about how that someone similar story for you, I'm going to go back now to my notes and see where this stuff came up in the chart. So let's see. So in the fourth house, the moon is in the fourth house, ruled by Virgo. We talked about how conditions were harsh and you basically just had to fight to survive. So when your first husband, if you were, let's say you were Sarah Good, I'm just going to go with that scenario. When your first husband died and left you poor, you were actually poor to begin with, but he left you with all of his debt. You had to take that on. And I think when I read the story of Sarah Good, she was taken in by neighbors, like had kind of homeless, like really like people just started to despise her because, again, her belief system, but then she became a burden to other people because of the debt she took on, but it wasn't really her fault. And then I look at the moon in the ninth house, Aquarius, the ninth house being your religious belief system, the Aquarius being the outcast. So you were definitely persecuted for your religious belief systems, and you were the black sheep, you were the bad guy. Even if you weren't Sarah Good, you could have been a witch in Salem or someone else who spoke your mind. And then I look at the eighth house. So the eighth house is about debt and loss. And specifically, it's usually connected to a spouse. So again, loss of a spouse and debt, taking on the spouse's debt. I mean, it's just so crazy, the parallels that I was seeing here with her life specifically. And then let's see. Oh, then this, okay, the moon again. The moon conjunct the south node. When I talked about being trapped by a family member, belief system, spouse, and even the ruler of the south node, Saturn, in the seventh house of relationships and marriage. Somehow you were not supported by your spouse in a past life, and you were confined by that. So your husband, if you were Sarah Good, did not support you during the witch trials, your second husband, and kind of sold you out, and you were killed. Um, Crazy, crazy. I want you though to tap in on this because um, yeah, I want to see if it resonates with you and if you get any of your own visions. I think that's the most important part. So, Black Moon Lilith, back to what I was saying about Black Moon Lilith and Uranus opposite your South Node, conjunct your North Node. Uranus is the planet of, in a past life, sudden, crazy, tragic things happening. Again, I would say being killed during the witch trials would meet that, check that box. And Black Moon Lilith is, again, that feminine energy. You are, there's no more like way I can describe the embodiment of Black Moon Lilith or the repressed feminine than the witch trials happening. Yeah, so I'm trying to see if there's anything else before we start the meditation. I think that'll be it for that. So what I want you to do is I want you to whatever comes to you. It doesn't have to be, I don't want you to do both lives at a time. So maybe do this meditation 2 separate times. One focus on the pioneer or the Oregon Trail life, and then the other one focus on the Pilgrim, Massachusetts, Salem life. But I want you to basically lie down or sit comfortably in a seated position. Do whatever you need to do. I'll light a candle. Make sure you won't be interrupted. Relax. And we're going to basically regress you back a little bit to experience these past lives on your own. And again, if you want to do the meditation once for each lifetime, that would probably be what I would do. So let's start with some breath work. I want you to breathe in through your nose for a count of 5. And then breathe out for a count of 7. Breathe in for 5. Out for 7. Breathe in for 5. Out for 7. Breathe in for 5. Out for 7. I just want to imagine, I want you to imagine that coming from your root chakra at the base of your spine, whether you're lying down or sitting, that tree roots are just grounding you down through the center of the earth. You can see these roots traveling all the way down to the center of the earth where you connect to the energy of Mother Earth. And then you bring Mother Earth's healing and protective energy back up through this root system into your root chakra at the base of your spine, your sacral chakra below your belly button, your solar plexus chakra above your belly button, your heart. And then imagine looking up at the sky and finding a bright star. And that star is pouring down golden energy down through the universe, through your crown chakra at the top of your head, your third eye between your eyebrows, your throat chakra, and settling to meet the earth energy in the middle of your heart. And here these two energies create a disc shape out and around your body. It goes out as wide as it needs to go and as high and low as it needs to go to create this bubble or egg shape of energy, golden sparkling energy of protection and light. And set the intention that during this meditation you are safe and protected, by these two divine energies and by your spirit team of the highest love and light. And that only the highest and greatest truth will come to you that is needed now for your healing at this moment. And anything that you were shown or seen, know that it is meant for your healing at this time and that you can handle it. And ask for the right amount of healing that is needed for you. And also intend that if more healing is needed later, it comes when the time is right. And that after this healing, you have enough time and space to process it and integrate it. And you have the support system in place that's needed. If something arises that you need a little bit of extra help with. Of course, you can always reach out to me. I've done this work for a while now, and I've helped others through it as well. So I'm actually going to have you travel with me to the lower world. In shamanism, the lower world is where the archetypal energies of the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, if you've heard of plant medicine, and animals, spirit animals, power animals, they live in the lower world, and you can tap into this natural earth energy for healing, but it's also a safe place to do a healing journey. So you'll learn a little bit about shamanism too. So I want you to picture yourself out in a beautiful setting, whether it's your yard or somewhere you've been in nature, and you find a tree that really catches your attention. And you go up to that tree, you touch its bark, you notice the color of its leaves, you feel the wind in your hair, and you can see the season that the tree is in. Is it winter, summer, spring, or fall? What color is the sky around you? And as you're noticing the environment, you gaze to the base of the tree and notice a hole, almost like a squirrel hole, is opening up. And you get curious and you go inside. And you notice that this tunnel opening up inside the tree has actually steps that go down into the earth. On the journey down, you can hear your footsteps. You can hear the echo in the tunnel of the tree. You can smell what it smells like in the earth. And you're going further and further down to the lower world. And then when you get to the ground, you notice a door. It's an old wooden door that's arched with a brass handle. And you pull it open, and you're opening yourself up into a world of the lower world where you're able to safely heal and integrate this healing journey. So you look around you, and what do you see in the lower world after you shut the door? You're stepping on the ground with bare feet. How does the ground feel beneath your feet? What color is the sky? Are there any animals there to greet you? If so, this could be one of your spirit team helpers or power animals to help you with this journey. If so, thank this animal for showing up. Perhaps there's a plant. Again, we have plant allies as well. If a plant or animal showed up, ask what message they have for you. Thank this plant or animal for its message, and invite it to come along with you to a fire you see in the distance. Find a comfortable seat around the fire in your mind's eye. You can be sitting or lying down, swinging in a hammock in the tree, whatever feels right for you. You're going to now be requesting that a life be shown to you. A past life as a pilgrim, coming to Massachusetts, or the one as a pioneer headed out west? When the lifetime that you were meant to see starts playing, imagine it playing across a screen in the sky. Who were you in this life? Trust your first answer. Who were you as a little child? How were you treated by your parents? What clothing did you wear? Where did you live? Think about what your desires were in life and what motivated you. Let this life play out in front of you in the way it proceeds. What images do you see? You might need to pause this recording to write something down, take notes, or speak into your phone's recorder. Who were your friends with? Who were your enemies? What were your belief systems? Did you have children? Were you married? What was something significant that happened in this life? Something so significant that it leaves an imprint on your soul. Now, in this current life, as Christine Reen. What does your soul want you to learn from this life? What can you take away from it? How can you use it to improve this life now? See how these life events in the past life came with you in early childhood in this current life? How did this affect your personality or the things you did as you grew and where you are today? How has it changed or shaped you? What lessons have you learned from this life, but also what would you like to leave behind and move on from? If you need more time, you can pause this video at any point. But we're going to wrap up this journey. It's okay to go back and do it again and again to see what other answers you receive. The most important part here is you get the lessons. You figure out what you're meant to let go of, what energy is leaving you. And what you've learned and what you can hang on to. What traits did you carry from this in this lifetime into your current life that you're proud of? And we talked about how your root chakra was reversed because in this past life you were struggling to survive. So we're going to remove any energy there now from the past life that is no longer needed, because in this life you're not struggling to survive like you were then. So we see that reverse spinning chakra. Let's slow it down a little bit. It seems like a dark shadow of energy at the base of your spine. And we're asking that this energy would be removed. And I call on my spirit helpers to do that, my power animals. So one of them is Eagle, and Eagle is now sucking this energy out of your spine and throwing it into a deep hole in the center of the earth. And in shamanism, this is called an extraction, where you have some emotional energy or trauma from a current life or past life living in your energy system that is no longer serving you, and it's kind of muddling and fogging up your energy field, and it's causing you to react in certain ways that just don't act in certain ways that just don't serve you anymore. So we're just removing this little cloud of energy from your root chakra, transmuting it, and returning it back to your spine, healed. And you can just picture this as golden energy swirling around the base of your spine. And I ask for this healing to happen slowly and in a way that's best for you. Sometimes healing happens too fast and it actually can bring physical pain into your body. We don't want to do this in any way that causes back pain or any physical symptoms. And there's also something in shamanism called commanding the second attention, and this is around belief systems that because of this energy we've been carrying in our body that no longer serves us, we develop belief systems and things that we tell ourselves that aren't necessarily true for who we are anymore. So in the past you had to struggle to survive, or you were judged for your beliefs, but now that's not the case. So I struggled to survive. Imagine yourself writing it on an old scroll. I struggled to survive. Rip it up, throw it in the fire, and let it burn away, because this is no longer who you are. And your new belief system that you're supposed to repeat to yourself, you can put it on a sticky note, put it on your mirror, set an alarm on your phone and remind yourself just to repeat it like a morning mantra. I have all I need. I am safe and secure. If you need to pause and write that down, do so. I have all I need. I am safe and secure. I have all I need. I am safe and secure. And you can feel this new belief system entering into your whole body, throughout every ounce of your being. And now we're just sealing in this healing so that glowing egg of energy that was placed around you at the beginning of this session is just spinning and sparkling as this healing is integrated. continue to give thanks to our spirit team and helpers for keeping us safe and helping us with this healing. And as soon as the egg stops spinning, you are going to go back to the door where you entered this lower world environment and climb back up that tunnel and take a seat next to that tree. And just imagine golden rain is showering down on you from the sky that is cleansing and cleaning your energy field. And you're continuing to feel the roots from your root chakra going down to Mother Earth, but this time they feel different. They feel less heavy and lighter and cleaner. Knowing that the energy of this past life that you carried with you for so long is now gone, and it has been transmuted into healing. Focus on your breath again. As you feel yourself coming back to your body, wiggle your hands and feet. Open your eyes. Write down anything that comes to you. Take notes. Drink plenty of water. And remember to allow yourself some time to integrate this healing. It's best to refrain from drinking a lot of alcohol or doing anything that's going to cause a lot of stress during this time. All right, I hope you find this awesome and enjoyable, and let me know what you think.